just give you the same thing. Tuesday. Everybody, very cold. Wow, there's a lot of press. That's what's going on. That's very positive. That's very good. Well, I just want to thank you all. We had a great debate last night. Every single online poll had us winning and winning good. So I'm very honored about that. It was a very interesting experience. And actually, for me, it was somewhat fun. It got a little bit testy.
Is a respected actress.
I'm sure the ratings were very good. I'm sure CNN was very happy. But really, it had a lot of very constructive moments. So we were very, very happy with the way it came out, and we were very happy with the reviews. It's my honor this morning. We have a tremendous crowd of people outside. But before we do that, it's my honor this morning to introduce somebody who is a real standout. He's been my friend for many years. He's been a spectacular governor. He's been just a wonderful person and a wonderful, loyal person. Done a really good job. Totally destroyed Marco Rubio the other day. I have never quite seen it. I was standing next to Marco Rubio and he melted. I said, "Are you all right, Marco?" And, I really give Chris credit for that. He's a real talent, and I would like to introduce him because he's going to say something that I think you'll find very, very interesting. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am proud to be here to endorse Donald Trump for President of the United States. I'm doing this for a number of reasons. First is that Donald and I, along with Melania and Mary Pat, have been friends for over a decade. He has been a good and loyal friend to our family, as we have been to he and his family. And over the years, we've had a lot of wonderful times together. Done a lot of good together for not only the people of the state of New Jersey, but for many charities that we've worked with and on together. And I absolutely appreciate him as a person and as a friend. Secondly, I've been on that stage. I've gotten to know all the people on that stage. And there is no one who is better prepared to provide America with the strong leadership that it needs, both at home and around the world, than Donald Trump. He is, looking at the 5 people on that stage last night, the clear standout and the person who will do exactly what needs to be done to make America a leader around the world again. He'll provide strong, unequivocal leadership. He will do what needs to be done to protect the American people, first and foremost, both in the homeland and in creating jobs for this country. And he will make sure that people around the world know that America keeps its word again. Donald Trump is someone who, when he makes a promise, he keeps it. I've experienced that over my long friendship with him. And what the American people and our allies around the world are going to understand is that Donald Trump is someone who keeps his word, and that means America will keep its word again. Third, there is no doubt in my mind, and I've been saying this right from the time I entered the campaign, that the single most important thing for the Republican Party is to nominate the person who gives us the best chance to beat Hillary Clinton. I can guarantee you that the one person that Hillary and Bill Clinton do not want to see on that stage come next September is Donald Trump. They know how to run the standard political playbook against junior senators and run them around the block. They do not know the playbook with Donald Trump because he is rewriting the playbook. He is rewriting the playbook of American politics because he's providing strong leadership that's not dependent upon the status quo. And so the best person to beat Hillary Clinton in November on that stage last night is undoubtedly Donald Trump. And so I am thrilled to be here this morning to lend my support. I will lend my support between now and November in every way that I can for Donald to help to make this campaign an even better campaign than it's already been, and then to help him do whatever he needs to do to help to make the country everything that we want it to be for our children and grandchildren. He is a good friend. He is a strong and resolute leader. And he is someone who is going to lead the Republican Party to victory in November over Hillary Clinton, which is the single most important thing we can do. So I thank him for his friendship. I thank him for all the kindnesses that we've shared with each other over the years. But more importantly than that, I thank him for leaving the private sector, for seeing that there was a need for strong leadership in this country, and for being willing to step out of the private sector and come and offer himself for public service and for leadership in this country at a time when our party and our nation so desperately needs it. So I'm happy to be on the Trump team, and I look forward to working with him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. Great honor. Yes, Mark?
want to ask Governor Christie what he thinks of.
Okay.
I want to ask about Governor Christie what you think of Senator Rubio calling Trump a con artist.
Is that what he called me?
He called you a lot of things, but one of them was a con artist. So I want to ask you.
He's a pretty desperate guy. He's down about 22 points in Florida.
He's trying to rally you and get inside your head. I wonder what you think the chances of that.
That's not happening. Go ahead, Chris.
Listen, the fact is that desperate people do desperate things. And I've seen it throughout politics, and so have you. And so the idea that Marco Rubio can get inside Donald Trump's head is an interesting proposition, but one that's really for the D.C. parlor game. What Donald Trump is about the people of this country. You know, I heard some of Senator Rubio's comments this morning. None of them were about the people of this country. When are we going to start talking about them? The fact that middle-class folks in this country are suffering. The fact that people who want jobs can't get them because they've been taken away. The fact that we can't any longer as a country stand up and defend ourselves around the world because we have a leader who wrings his hands. I didn't hear any of that this morning from Senator Rubio. So desperate people in campaigns do desperate things, flailing punches in the last days of a losing campaign. Fact of the matter is, no one's going to get inside this guy's head. He has lived a lot of life. He's had lots of fights and battles. I've watched him do it. And there is no better fighter than Donald Trump, and he's going to fight for the American people. And you didn't hear Senator Rubio talk about any of that this morning.
John?
First, two things. This is a big endorsement.
I agree. To me, it's a very big endorsement.
I want to ask you what it means to your campaign. You said endorsements don't matter much.
Generally speaking, I'm not big on endorsements. I could have had many endorsements. I have quite a few good ones, but I could have had many. But, I didn't want to take the time and the 2 hours and the dinners and everything else. It just wasn't worth it. This was an endorsement that really meant a lot. Chris is an outstanding man with an outstanding family. He's done a great job. And I think that this is the one endorsement that I felt very strongly about. I wanted again.
And I want to ask you about Marco Rubio talking about the Jewish debate. He actually suggested that you were sweating backstage.
I'll tell you about backstage. If you'd like. I walked back there, and he's with a pile of makeup, putting it on his face. I said, Marco, easy with the makeup. You don't need that much. You know the story with Marco. I watched him against this man where Marco, he was right over here. And I actually looked at him. I said, are you okay? He looked like he just came out of a swimming pool. He was a mess. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens. But no, I heard he had some very nasty personal comments. But I saw him backstage, and he was putting it on with a trowel. Yes, Katie? It's just too. We never even had that discussion. Chris called. We have this great relationship, and I just said, wow, that is really great. That is really great. To me, this is something that means outstanding person, amazing person. Excuse me, that's a civil case. I've won much of it. Excuse me, Sarah. I've won much of it. It's a peanut case. It's a very small case. I will end up winning. I could have settled it many times. I decided not to settle it. I could settle it now. I don't want to settle it. Excuse me. I go through court. I go through court often. I win the cases. I have a very good record. And I don't like, this is just people wanting to get their money back. Most of these people signed report cards. It's called a report card, where they said how great it was. Then they sue you years later to see if they get their money back. So we'll win the case. It'll take a little while, but we'll win the case. Much of the case has already been won. Go ahead.
Governor Christie, you have a decision to make between a lot of the other candidates. What's it come down to? What was the moment when you decided to endorse Mr. Trump?
First of all, let me respond to that, because I'm a former federal prosecutor. To try to compare a civil lawsuit to the mishandling of classified information, much of which I can tell you, we used to have to go to specialized rooms that were sealed from any type of intrusion to look at, and those were sitting on a private email server in Mrs. Clinton's basement in Chappaqua, New York. To try to compare that to a civil lawsuit where someone's suing for money is a complete misunderstanding. Excuse me. Listen. It's a complete. You're setting up a question that you're trying to. No. Let me finish. You're trying to equate a civil lawsuit against him with the mishandling of classified information that could put American national security at risk. It's ridiculous. Now, on your question, here's my process. Here's my process on how I went through this. Fact is, after the campaign was over, Mary Pat and I went home, and we took a deep breath. I got back to preparing my budget for the state of New Jersey, which I needed to do a week after the New Hampshire primary and present that to the people of New Jersey. And then we sat down as a family, me and Mary Pat and our children, and we talked about, do we want to play any other role in this campaign, or do we want to just not? I concluded, along with Mary Pat and the children supported, that we wanted to be with the person who we thought could provide the strongest leadership for America and the person who could best make sure that Hillary Clinton never gets within 10 miles of the White House. Once we made that decision, there was clear the only choice was Donald Trump. The best choice was Donald Trump. And the last thing is, our family is one that prides loyalty. And the fact is that we have been good friends with Donald and his family for many years, and there was no choice in my mind. And when did I make the final decision? Yesterday morning, I met with Donald. We sat and talked, and he said, how about coming out on the road to Texas with me? And I said, happy to do it whenever you're ready, sir. So we did it, and that's how the process went.
Former federal prosecutor uniquely qualified to deal with national security and terrorism. We also took really pride in putting together an entitlement reform proposals more specific. Those counts, Mr. Trump has been, both of those counts, Mr. Trump has been found by his rivals, Bill Ray, not to be sufficiently specific, unprepared. Marco Rubio said he's fully unprepared today to be the President of the United States. And how do you evaluate what Mr. Trump is on entitlements and on dealing with terrorism as compared to the way you saw yourself?
I find it fascinating that someone who barely shows up for work in the 6 years he's a United States Senator is going to talk about somebody else being unprepared. And the fact of the matter is, Senator Rubio has shown himself over the course of time to be wholly unprepared to be President of the United States. I said that at the time I was in the race, and nothing has changed my mind now. The fact is, this is the only guy on that stage, other than Governor Kasich, who has made executive decisions, who's had to make executive decisions throughout his life, who understands how to put together budgets, how to make sure that money is spent efficiently and effectively in order to create profit, and to make sure that the country, as moving forward as president, would get back on that kind of track. This guy knows how to do that better than anybody on that stage. And so this campaign has a long way to go, and there's going to be lots of conversations still to have. But the confidence I have is that he is strong enough to take on the D.C. establishment, which is what's represented by, Senator Rubio. It's the D.C. establishment against a guy who's going to come in there and fight the D.C. establishment to turn around what's been happening in this country, the failure of both parties to be able to do anything that's worthwhile. So Donald and I continue to have great conversations about the campaign going forward. I intend to be a resource in any way that I possibly can be for him, and I have absolute confidence in his ability to be able to get in there and fix the problems that plague America.
Well, I think I told you about 12 times yesterday. My taxes for many years have been under audit, and for some reason, I have a lot of rich friends. They've never been audited. I'm audited every year, I think, for like 12 years. Many of those audits have been finished, but we have some left. And until such time as the audit is finished by the IRS, which is a routine audit, I think, but until such time as it's finished, I won't be going and releasing, because obviously that wouldn't be a very good thing to do. Yes, go ahead.
How do you feel about the recent endorsement from David Duke?
I didn't even know he endorsed me. David Duke endorsed me? Okay. All right. I disavow. Okay? Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
The former president of Mexico said they will not pay for the wall. What is your response to that?
My response is the wall just got 10 feet higher. I gave it to you yesterday. I'll tell you what, and he used foul language. And if I use that language, Chris can tell you. Can you imagine if I used that language? If I used that language, it would be a major scandal. And as many people as we have today, you'd have 5 times more. It was disgraceful the way he went about saying it. And it's going to be very easy. Mexico will pay for the wall. Number one, the wall will be built, which the other people will never get done. And Mexico will pay for the wall. And the reason is very simple. We have right now $58 billion in trade deficits. The wall is a fraction of that. So we will get the wall done, and Mexico will pay for it. Yes, go ahead. Okay, don't get nervous. Don't get nervous. Don't worry about it. Not a big deal.
rising anti-establishment sentiment among the voters?
I think a lot. Good question. I like it. Thank you. I think a lot. People are angry. People are upset. They're upset by by what's going on with the economy. They're upset by trade. They're upset by virtually everything. Nothing good happens with us. We don't win anymore. Nothing good happens. So there is a very angry group of people out there, and they're not angry people, but they're angry at what's happening to our country. Yes, go ahead. Stay with me. We're going to get you jobs. Because the biggest problem I have, I go and meet college students. They get out, they work hard, they put debt up to their neck, and then they can't get a job when they graduate. Because the jobs we have are all bad jobs. We're not creating good jobs. The good jobs are going away. They're going off the country. They're going out of our country. Pfizer is leaving and moving to Ireland. It's disgraceful. We're going to get them jobs. Yes, go ahead.
Governor Christie, I listened to you for months say we don't need a commander-in-chief. We need someone who's not only going to burn Washington down, but knows how to rebuild it. You had a lot of convincing things to say about Mr. Trump. What changed the calculation?
How did you know I was talking about Mr. Trump? Well, by the way, I mean, listen, I think you watched the act Senator Rubio has been putting on over the last few weeks. He's obviously gone now, and part of his talking points are to try to be entertaining and smile a lot. Listen, it's one act after another. We don't need any more of these Washington, D.C. acts. The acts I wanted to get rid of are Washington, D.C. acts. That's why as a governor from a state capital, I said we don't need somebody from Washington, D.C. What I most consistently said during that campaign was the problem is Washington, D.C., and we don't need Washington politicians to come in and fix it. And so when you look at who's remaining on that stage, there's no question that this is the person who will go to Washington, D.C. and be able to absolutely turn the place around. We don't need any more Washington politicians, especially some who've only been there for one term and never really shown up for work to tell us how to run the United States government. And so I absolutely believe that Donald Trump is the best person on that stage to be president of the United States. And one last thing, by the way, there was a period of time I was running against him. And he knew when I was running against him, I wanted to beat him. And he wanted to beat me. And we had open conversations about that. But that part of this is over. And then you have to say to yourself, as a good, loyal American, who is the best person to stop Hillary Clinton from ever getting inside the White House again? This is the best person to do that. Turn away from the amateur acts from Washington, D.C., and turn to a professional, strong leader. That's who this man is.
You did say ask him how. You asked him how is he going to do this?
Yes.
You're the former chairman of the Republican government, firmly embedded in the establishment of the party and its fundraising efforts. As part of your presence here today, tell the Republican establishment still not sold on Mr. Trump. This campaign is effectively over. You better get on the ball.
No, what my intent for being here today is to say to anyone who's willing to listen, not just members of the RGA or donors, but to the American people, that you need a strong, tough leader to restore America's greatness. And this is the best person to do that. And so whatever message anybody else wants to take from that, they can take whatever message they like. But most of the time, you know that people do best with me if they don't try to figure out what the message is, they just listen. They listen to what I say, because I don't send smoke signals. What I'm doing today is I'm endorsing the person I believe is the best person to defeat Hillary Clinton and restore American jobs, restore American prestige around the world, and restore the faith and confidence of the American people again in the fact that we are an exceptional and great nation. Mitt Romney to Donald Trump, they're very different fellas.
Texas ran rise on Tuesday. Polls are all over the place. What does the win look like for you in this state?
Well, I think we have a great shot. I think that people are liking me a lot. I know a lot about Texas. I have many friends in Texas, many friends. I'm here a lot. I think we have a really good chance. If you look at South Carolina, that was supposed to be Cruz's stronghold. That was a stronghold. He was going to win that easily. And I won by, 22 points? I won in a landslide. I won evangelicals. I won military. I won the vets. I won everything. I won men. I won women. I won Hispanics. I won every single category. And same thing in Nevada. We came in, we won every category, including, by the way, Hispanics. So, it was supposed to be a stronghold. He was supposed to do great there. He lost by a lot. I think that I should have a really good chance of Texas. I see the Bloomberg poll came out, and it's, massive leads in every state. We're doing very well in Texas. The Emerson poll came out. We're, I guess, tied or effectively tied. So I think we're going to do very well here. I'm going to be here. I'm here now. And I would love to get Texas because of my relationship to Texas. So many friends. Okay? Mark? Well, he's desperate. Look. I watched a part of his little act, and he's a desperate guy. I've been watching him over the last number of weeks. He is not presidential material, that I can tell you. Doesn't have the demeanor. He is a nervous Nelly. I watch him, backstage. He's a mess. The guy's a total mess. And, I joked recently about, can you imagine Putin sitting there waiting for a meeting, and Rubio walks in, and he's totally drenched. I don't know what it is, but I've never seen a human being sweat like this man sweats. So I don't think he's I don't think he's of presidential caliber. I don't think he has the demeanor. I don't think he's going to do very well. And he's a mess because in Florida, which he abandoned, by the way. I love Florida. I've invested hundreds of millions of dollars. I own Doral. I own many clubs, including Mar-a-Lago, including Trump International, which is one of the best clubs in the country. But I own many. And a lot of real estate along the shore of Miami that worked out well with the Deserts and a lot of other people. So I'm a major investor in Miami, one of the biggest. And frankly, the people in Florida like me. But for me to go into Florida and have like a 20-point lead over the sitting senator, but remember, the sitting senator abandoned Florida. He left Florida. He was supposed to be there. He really defrauded, if you think of it. He really defrauded Florida, the people of Florida, because they elected him as a young senator. He goes there, and before he sits down, he starts running for president. So he's not the right guy, in my opinion, and I think he's got very bad temperament. I think he's got the absolute wrong temperament to be president. Katie, go ahead.
A few days ago, people were speculating that he wasn't going after you, you weren't going after him, that maybe you all had a secret deal.
No, they did speculate that he was going to be my vice presidential pick. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. Now it's obvious that he's not going to be. I never even had it in mind. I don't think he has the right temperament. I watched Chris do a number on him. I've almost never seen a meltdown like that in my life. And it's interesting about people who choke. I'm, believe it or not, a good athlete. I've watched people choke over the years. And once a choker, always a choker. It never, ever changes. The guy that misses the kick, misses the kick. When he misses the first one, you got to get rid of him because it doesn't work. Once a choker, always a choker. And that was one of the epic meltdowns. He didn't know where he was. I thought he was going to die. Good going, Chris. Man. Well, I don't want to discuss that, but he certainly got the talent. We didn't talk about it. We actually did not even talk about it, but he certainly has a lot of talent. Yes, Katie? I don't want to do it until I have it done. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. We talk about establishment and all. I think it's very unfair that for many, many years I've been audited. I have many, many friends that are very rich people, and they have never been audited. I was with somebody the other day, very rich guy. I said, "How often are you audited?" He said, "Audited." He didn't know what I was talking about. I have many, many rich friends, almost all of them, and they're never audited. Why am I audited every single year? So I'm just going to put you people to rest. Until my audit is finished, very simple, you're not going to see anything. When it's finished, you're going to see it. But I'm not going to complicate things by doing it. But put yourself in my position. Why is it that every single year, and I'm talking about beyond Barack Obama, but every year during his term also, every single year I'm audited? It's not fair, I will tell you. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why. All I can say is that many, many people I know that are very, very wealthy are not audited. Okay. John?
Rubio is going right at you at what is your biggest strength, your business success.
Yeah.
He's portrayed you as having a series of business disasters.
Yeah, which is...
You said you made it by beating up on the little guy.
Yeah, which is totally wrong. Totally wrong. He also said I got $200 million from my father. I wish. I got a very, very small loan from my father many years ago. I built that into a massive empire, and I paid my father back that loan. And by the way, and I was telling Chris, actually Chris was telling me because he understands it, my father left me some money, nothing like the numbers you heard. But by that time, it was many, many years later when my father passed away. My father, more than anything else, I learned a lot from my father. But for this guy, this lightweight, I call him a lightweight because he is a lightweight, to get up and say $200 million. In fact, the first call I got last night was from my sister. And then I got a call from my brother. And they said, wow, how does he say that? That's not true. They understand. You know, we have 5 in the family. And they said, so in other words, anything also would be split up. But she called, she said, boy, was that untrue. And it's really a shame. And I'll tell you where they got it. They got it, the New York Times wrote, you know, I call it the failing New York Times, because it is a totally failing paper with some really inaccurate reporting, and purposely inaccurate. They go out of their way, and if you try and make a correction prior to the story, they don't want to do it. They made a statement about it. I don't know where they got it, but I would just tell you the number is wrong by a factor of hundreds of, by a fortune. I got a small loan, started a business, and it's now worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. And if I ever wanted to sell the assets I have, Trump Tower, the Bank of America building in San Francisco, big chunk, 1290 Avenue of the Americas, some of the best land in the country, Doral Country Club, Turnberry in Scotland, home of the Open Championship, referred to sometimes as the British Open. My property would sell for numbers like nobody would even believe. I have, I think, among the best properties anywhere in the world. No, I just think it's really unfair when a guy says, my father gave me $200 million. If you knew Brooklyn, okay, in the early 1980s, and you understand this, Chris, if you knew Brooklyn in the early 1980s and the 1970s, there wasn't $200 million, that I can tell you. And I do have brothers and sisters. But the first call I got was from my sister, and then I got a call from my brother, late at night. And all he wanted to do is say, why are they allowed to say that? Because he's a liar. This guy's a liar. Now, I used to call Ted Cruz a liar, but now I'll also call Marco Rubio. And he actually mentioned some companies, and some of those companies are very successful companies. He said they closed. I sold some. Like, for instance, I sold Miss Universe for a lot of money, got a lot of money for it. I sold others. And the water company he mentions, I think, the wine company. I have the biggest vineyard on the East Coast. That's having to do with, I make vodka all for my clubs, because I have many clubs. And we make vodka for the clubs. He said it was closed. It's not closed. Go ahead.
Just make a ridiculous pledge. You pledge to support another nominee. If he were to become a nominee...
Well, no, I'd think about it. I would certainly think about it. But look, if for some reason it didn't work out for me, Chris would understand this. I'm going back into what I do. I don't need to do this. This is something I'm doing because we are going to make America great again. And politicians are not going to do that. These politicians, and I know the people on the stage, they're not going to do it. Marco Rubio is a lightweight. He doesn't have the talent. He doesn't have the temperament. He can never make us great.
Do you know if you can write off the money that you were using for your campaign? Do you know if you can write that off?
No idea. What kind of a question is that?
Can I ask you a question?
No idea.
You, as you said, are a former federal prosecutor. Is there a position in the cabinet that you would be interested in, Attorney General, something like that? Would you like to be his running mate?
I am the governor of the state of New Jersey until January 19th of 2018, and I have every expectation that I will fulfill the end of my term and then go into private life and make money like Trump. That's what I intend to do. I haven't been offered any position, and I don't speculate on those kind of things. I have a term of office till January 19th of 2018, and I intend to fulfill my term, and then, like I said, go off into the private sector and finally beat my wife 1 year in our marriage. We've been married 30 years in March. I'd like one time before I die to make more money in a year than she did. So that's going to be my goal after January 19th of 2018.
But he does have talent. That I will. Thank you, everybody. We have thousands. I have to go. We have thousands and thousands of people outside. You will be very impressed. Thank you all.